Salut! Bine ai venit la un video nou foarte special astăzi. Eu sunt Dana, ea este Jen și suntem în Canada. Pentru că eu îmi petrec aici vacanța de vară și m-am întâlnit cu Jen la o librărie foarte specială care mie îmi place foarte mult, care se numește Chapters. Deci am invitat-o pe Jen astăzi alături de mine la o cafea, pentru că ea a lucrat 20 de ani de zile cu copii cu ADHD, cu autism și cu alte probleme comportamentale ca profesor de sprijin. Și vreau să ne spună mai multe din experiența ei despre aceste două tulburări. În episodul de astăzi vorbim despre ADHD. And now we switch to English. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Now I understand.
Yeah. Thanks so much for wanting to help us all understand better ADHD and autism. We all have to learn from each other. And I appreciate your work and your experience. And theory doesn't always match practice. So that's why I want you to please tell us your background a bit.
Well, my name is Jen, and recently I have founded my own company called Focus Facilitators, where I'm an ADHD coach. I also work with people, children and adults with autism as well, any neurodivergent condition, really. I have a master's degree in applied behavior analysis, and I've been working with the disabled community for 20 years in various capacities. I've worked in the school as an EA. I've worked in the school as a behavior consultant. I've volunteered with Special Olympics. I myself have ADHD and autism, so I do have a very unique background when working with this group of people because I've lived it and I live it every day. It's a group of people that I chose because I've noticed through the years working with those people, I click with them. And that's why.
You understand them very well.
I understand them very well. And a lot of teachers had commented how quickly I gained the trust and got along with a child who has nonverbal autism. I didn't think it was that strange. I was like, it's what I do. Turns out it's because I have autism.
Oh, okay. Here you are actually trying to help these people and these kids.
Yes, and I also want to raise awareness, which you are doing a very big job in helping me.
So, let's actually dig in. And I prepared 14 questions for Jen. Hopefully, you're going to be patient enough to actually go through all of them with us. So, first question. What actually is ADHD?
ADHD is a neurological condition that falls under the umbrella of what we now call neurodivergent because there are physical differences in the ADHD brain that are not found in the neurotypical brain of people who don't have one.
Okay.
Same with anything else that falls under that category, like schizophrenia or epilepsy or dyslexia or autism. They're all neurodivergent conditions because there are specific brain differences for each condition. In ADHD specifically, it tends to be a cerebellum that's a little bit smaller in size, your prefrontal cortex is a little bit small, basal ganglia, and the amygdala, which is why there's rage.
Oh, yeah, emotions.
Emotions are tough with that. They do develop just very slowly, and in adulthood, they tend to be pretty close in size, but you don't lose the symptoms.
Okay. So, does ADHD mean just having a lot of energy as a child?
No. It means so much more. There's more than one kind of ADHD. There's inattentive ADHD, and then there's hyperactive ADHD, which is what the HD stands for.
Yeah.
We used to have a dash in the middle and just separate them or put it together. But you can have inattentive, you can have hyperactive, or you can have a combination of both, which is what I have. Okay. So you can be extremely fidgety and antsy and always moving around, but you could also talk really fast and you forget things or you lose things or you forget what you're saying in the middle of the sentence. That one's my favorite.
If I'm a teacher who works in the kindergarten in my example, and I have some kids who have a lot of energy, is it okay to say they might have ADHD, or should I maybe treat them just like the other kids and tell myself, they might be just full of energy?
They could be just full of energy at that age. It's harder to tell. Are they boys or girls?
Usually boys.
Girls don't often present with that big burst of energy, which is why they're not diagnosed till later in life.
Talking about that, what is the age when specialists can put this diagnosis?
The earliest is 3.
Okay.
But what happens is boys get diagnosed on average is 7, and girls is 30.
Oh, wow.
Because the symptoms are so different.
Tell us about this. What's
Girls and women internalize a lot of the symptoms. So they suffer a lot more of the depression and the anxiety and the internal thought because they work really hard growing up to mask their symptoms and fit in. This also happens with autism. Girls tend to be more social than the boys, where boys just are disruptive and energetic. They look for attention. Girls are trying to avoid all the attention and all the things just come inwards. Their hyperactivity is inside them. They'll talk fast. That is one of the things that girls will do when they get excited. They talk faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. That's their hyperness showing, not jumping around and running around. Girls and boys need to be treated a little bit different because their symptoms are showing in different ways. I've read studies and they've asked many boys and many girls that are diagnosed what their biggest problems are. Boys aren't concerned about the anxiety and depression. It's there, but it's not their biggest concern, but it is for girls.
I never actually thought about ADHD as involving depression and anxiety. Never. I always saw it as something with a burst of energy and basically you can't focus.
I was told very young that I talk too much, you move too much, sit still, sit properly. Because girls tend to take that internally and take it to heart. Because I'm really bad, even as an adult. Somebody tells me something, it hurts so bad, and it's something little, and we call that rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And it's very more common in women than it is in men. And then when you go to bed, you're thinking about how you could have done it different, how you could have done it better, and then all of a sudden a memory from the 3rd grade pops in and you're not sleeping.
Let's talk about what causes ADHD. Did we maybe as parents did something wrong? Did we let them watch too much TV or
gosh, no.
use their devices too much?
No, I didn't have those things in the 80s. I still have it.
So what happens then?
Largely genetic. My mother has it. But the exact cause, we don't know. We do know that there are a bunch of genes involved, and there could be factors that are due to the environmental toxins during pregnancy or drug use during pregnancy. People who are more at risk of developing ADHD are people who are premature at birth, have epilepsy already, because epilepsy is a neurodivergent condition, maternal drug use or toxins, or have had a traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
And I've known now 2 people that I have met that had ADHD before a traumatic brain injury, and it got worse because it depends on the area of the brain that's affected. If you further damage an area of the brain that is affected by your ADHD, it's going to get worse because now you've lost more. Another reason that ADHD is the way it is because of dopamine pathways. They only have 4, and 2 of ours work really good. This 2, not so much, which is why we seek it. We do things because they're fun and exciting and new, and if they're not those 3 things, we're super interested. So it's hard to do things like homework and schoolwork and housework. And you have to find ways to do it, make it fun. Set a timer, roll a dice. If I roll a certain number, then I do this thing. If I roll a certain number, then I do that thing.
Okay, so what exactly would you think would be helpful as a treatment?
In my experience, it's been the same as research. Everybody's helped by something else. ADHD changes so much between each individual because it's a physical difference in the brain. That difference is different in everybody.
True. Yeah.
So what works for me might not work for someone else. And for a lot of people, medication very much helps. There's 2 streams of medication. There is non-stimulant and stimulant. And stimulant does not work for everybody, but for the most part it does because they've shown in MRIs how it quiets the brain.
Okay.
That's why we all love our coffee. But there's also other therapies that you can do. Cognitive behavior therapy, people have
We have that in Romania.
rearranged it a little bit to be better for ADHD. Token economies don't really help too much unless the tokens are very shiny and exciting. Because things don't stay fun and new for long. So those, I have found that they don't work for me. Tried quitting smoking that way. Wasn't fun enough. I just quit. So sometimes, because we can be stubborn, that decision to do something or not to do something is the most effective. But as a teacher, if that child decides that, change the subject. Don't argue. We love it. We love to argue. I have found that regardless of the condition, what I learned about in class is a hero procedure is the most effective, especially for the whole classroom.
Can you explain that a bit?
With a hero procedure, one student is a hero, and that student has to do their current jobs, whatever it is, whether it's their math or their art or their science, do their work and listen and be quiet. These are all the rules. They have to follow all those rules, and the rest of the class has to help them. If that one student is successful from time A to time B, then the whole class gets a reward.
Oh, nice.
So everybody has to work together so that they all get something and everybody takes turns being a hero. I did that in a behavior class, and I had them fighting over who got to be the hero.
Wow.
In a class that has a timeout room. Just like chill, because everybody wins. And you're not technically singling anybody out because you don't mean to. But when you're like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, you are singling them out. So if you want to do those, I like to do them random, but I will start purposely with the more.
And do you do more than one kid per class, for example?
If it's a big class, I might do more than one. The class that I had the most success with only had 8 kids. And then I did it in a class of 30 with only one because I was only there till the end of the day. Till the bell rang. Because that's what I said. Till the bell rang. I should have learned better.
So that's one of your tips to...
That's my biggest one, to include everybody.
ADHD in the class. Let's talk about that. Do you think kids with ADHD should be included in a regular school and a regular class, or should they have their separate classes or schools?
I think that they should be in a regular class with their peers because they are very smart. They just have trouble focusing, and it's not their fault. They have a brain that refuses to turn off. And that part of your brain is supposed to turn off when you're focusing, and it does not. So it's this constant battle inside your head of, I need to focus on this, but oh look, there's something over there. I need to focus on this. So there is going to be an element, but it doesn't have to be verbal. The teacher could walk around the class and tap their page or give their arm a nudge. Do something that's insignificant to get them back looking at their page again.
And you told me when we met the chapters, what about decorating the room?
Keep them to a minimum. Those are distracting, like even in this place, because we have all these shiny spoons that we can look at. You can see them in the corner. They're neat. And there's also some lights over there. Thankfully, they're not blinking, but those are all constantly drawing my visual attention, doing a lot to avoid the noise in the background. Noise is also a big distractor. Like my biggest fear growing up was somebody dropping their pencil during a test because that pencil drops and I'm gone. And then 45 minutes disappears and now I'm panicking. So it's hard to catch up. So then you have to go really, really, really fast. And the sound of even just this can distract your brain or distract you. And because you heard a sound, now you're looking towards it. Now you're seeing new things. We've forgotten about this. Like, that's how fast it happens.
And can we do something as a school psychologist or educational assistants to help these kids in this thing?
If someone has ADHD, put them at the front of the room to the teacher, because then they have to turn around to hear anything and you know if they're distracted. If they're at the back of the room, you don't know if they're distracted. And I guarantee you, I've been at the back of a room. I was distracted because you can hear and see every little thing in front of you. Minimize the amount of things there are to look at and to hear. I know it's hard to keep a classroom quiet.
It is.
And that's better for everybody. Or if you could play music.
Okay, so what can we do to include these kids with ADHD in their group so that their peers don't bully them?
Education. Even when they're young, we need to teach them that everybody is different and that is a good thing. My friend works at a school and it was the most amazing place. All of the kids with disabilities, even severe ones, are included. They have worked with them since kindergarten, and so all the kids know the kids. and you recruit peers to play with them at recess. That gives staff a break. Minimize the amount of adult-only attention. Maybe get older kids to play with them because the older kids understand better. With one of my friend's students, they have Rett syndrome. She's in a wheelchair, and the kids in grade 6 are the ones that take turns playing with her, and they love it. They've known her forever. They've watched her grow up. So if your group is kindergarten, that is the prime spot to have them understand that little Johnny's brain works differently than yours, and maybe you could emphasize some of the things he is good at that he can do. Some of the things that kids with ADHD are good at is they tend to be joke tellers and storytellers and funny people. Give them a chance to tell a story if that's one of his superpowers, or very good at pattern recognition, like break out some Where's Waldo. Betcha he beats everybody.
I have a question that is related to what happened to me and a kid in my kindergarten, and maybe you have an answer to that. So there's this kid who was 5 or 6. He was doing great in one-on-one therapy, but when he came back to the kindergarten and to his group and to his peers, he was always very difficult to concentrate and to sit down and to do well in a group. Why would you think that happened? Why do they do well in one-on-one therapy but not in a group?
The only thing that is getting their attention in one-on-one therapy is the therapist. Everything is getting their attention in that classroom. Because of that problem with the focus not happening, it's called DMN. It's basically the default mode network is what it's called. And what's supposed to happen right now inside your brain, because you were focusing on me, your DMN comes down. It's off. So that the focus area of the brain can be like, in the ADHD brain, it doesn't. So it's still up here when it's supposed to be down here. And so now they're competing against each other. And we also tend to have a stunted visual control over visual stimuli is not that great. So that's why all the everything around you can be so distracting is because that part of the brain is not fully developed, especially at this child's age, because they take so much longer to develop than everybody else. So everything he sees and hears is, do I pay attention to it? I don't know. Do I? Maybe. Better check it out. And it's constant. Also, being social can be hard. For some people with ADHD, social skills do not come naturally. So if he struggles with social skills, being in a group is exhausting. He might get upset because he doesn't have a lot of words at 5 years old, 6 years old. He doesn't have necessarily the best way of expressing, I'm tired, or I'm upset, or I'm overwhelmed, because getting overwhelmed by your senses happens. And it happens easily, especially with ADHD or autism. I know where my limit is, but it takes time to learn that. I know that if I'm in a room trying to focus on one person and actually carrying 3 conversations from strangers around me, then I'm done because I know I'm focusing on 4 conversations.
So basically, we should try to take out all the distractions we can and put them next to us. And
if you can get them a chair that allows them to change their position, that would really help too. Or sometimes put an elastic band around the bottom so that they can put their feet back and flick it, or put their feet up, or change how they sit, because a lot of us don't like to sit normal. Because a lot of people with ADHD are also hypermobile, which means our joints tend to need extra support.
So basically, telling them sit still.
Bad idea.
They
can't.
And we should just do that with that kid or with all the kids in the class.
Well, you know what? There's nothing that wouldn't benefit. The other kids, especially at that age, they'd love a wiggle stool. They can sit here and go like this. But if it's distracting them, then you can't. They're not learning as they're wiggling. And just because they're wiggling doesn't mean they're not learning. I can sit here and wiggle and teach them. Don't try and teach them something. They're upset. Because if they're upset, they're probably overwhelmed. And they're not going to learn it anyway.
What helps when they're upset?
They need a break. And sometimes you just start scheduling them. Have them work in short bursts. So if you have a whole page of problems, like this page has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it, and you notice they're drifting, say do 1. and then they'll do the one, and then you come back around, okay, do this one now. Jump around, because it'll keep them engaged. You don't need to do them in order. So if they don't, especially with a big page of math, we'll do this one now. Now do this one now. You're creating that momentum. You get them going.
So we know that ADHD kids need methods that change often, right? Because you can't just find one that works the whole school year, can you?
The method may still work, but you will have to change the reward. So if the reward for doing their sheet is a stamp, that's probably not going to work for people. We don't do well with internalized rewards. We need something often tangible. Praise works really well. You have to change it up. You can't just say good job all the time, because then it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Basically, ADHD kids need instant gratification.
Yeah. You need it. Maybe they like stickers on their hand, or if they like Spider-Man stickers this week, interests will change. If they can tell you, ask them, what kind of stickers do you want this week? Get to know them. They'll tell you. With the ADHD kids, I would limit it to 2. Decision fatigue is a thing. We don't like deciding. To help them calm down, you might have to just leave them alone. If they can sit out in the hall by themselves, that's ideal, because it's quiet, it's calm, and there's no one else around. Or try a stuffy. Weighted stuffed animals can be very helpful.
That's a good idea.
But it doesn't work for everybody, but you can always try it, and try these things when they're calm. Never introduce a new calming technique while they're upset. Different breathing techniques. The figure 8 is one of my favorites. You draw a figure 8 and you inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. There's more of a self-hypnosis version where you think only of the number 1 while you inhale, and then think only of the number 2 while you exhale. But you have to teach them when they're calm. And these are things you can teach the whole class. Because all kids need to learn to calm down. All kids need to learn all of these things. It's just that kids with ADHD are going to need more practice. That's all.
And don't single them out.
No, try not to. Do silent things to get them focused again. Or have their friends help out. Explain that sometimes this person gets really easily distracted. I need you to make sure that he doesn't get distracted. You've got someone in their corner telling everybody else to be quiet. That way it's not always the teacher going, you. Or get them to ask questions. So if you're doing independent work, have the neighboring student ask them how to do it.
They like to help?
They love helping. Helping gives you happy, fun feelings. If he's good at math, get him to help the other kids.
And that would motivate them.
Make him feel really good. Because he's used to hearing bad things about himself. So that's why we like the praise, because we've heard a lot of bad things. The statistic I heard was over 200 times more negative things are said about someone with ADHD in their life than someone who does not have it, which is heartbreaking, but I've lived it.
Okay, so one final piece of advice on how to work with ADHD kids.
Get to know them. They'll teach you all that you need to know without you even asking specifically to be taught. You just pay attention and ask questions, get to know them. They have beautiful personalities and they'll probably make you laugh.
Thanks. Thank you so much for all
Thank you for having me. I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, you did. Mulțumim că ne-ați urmărit și sperăm că aceste răspunsuri v-au fost de ajutor. Bye!
Bye!